Operations Committee of the University of Minnesota Board of Regents. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you to those who are joining us by way of live stream and those attending in our boardroom here on the Twin Cities campus and by way of Zoom. I'll note that Regent Mayor Ron is joining us remotely this afternoon. Let me welcome our student representatives for today, Pete Smith and Nico Vasilopoulos. Hi. Yeah, both of the Twin Cities campus. So our first item this afternoon is to act on the President's recommended fiscal year 2026-2027 biannual budget request to the state of Minnesota. President Cunningham and Interim Senior Vice President Tonneson will take us through the items. President Cunningham, please begin.
Thank you, Chair Hipsch and members of the board. Today, I'm pleased to present our fiscal year 2026-27 biennial budget request for action. First and foremost, state support is essential for us to continue delivering high-quality education, research, and public service. In this budget request, we are seeking a recurring increase in operations and maintenance funding. We're prioritizing investments in our people, facilities, and programs to continue delivering on our powerful public mission and to advance initiatives that prioritize students and increase our statewide impact. This request ensures that we remain a strong partner in Minnesota's future prosperity. Now I will turn it over to Julie Tonneson, Interim Senior Vice President for Finance and Operations, to review the highlights of our request.
Thank you, Chair Hipsch, members of the committee. Today, as President Cunningham mentioned, we're asking you to approve our recommendation for the biennial budget request to the state of Minnesota for the FY26 and FY27 years. And I will just briefly highlight what those specific recommended requests are. As we discussed in September, our proposed request centers around two themes. First, a partnership with the state to support our excellence in teaching, research, and public engagement. The university, we believe, is critical to the strength of the state's economy, the vibrancy of our communities, and the health of our citizens. And in order to perform in those ways, we in the state must recognize and address our financial realities and the actual cost needs we have for the next 2 years. And second, we want to forward some exciting opportunities to advance beyond our current levels of distinction, areas of investment where we know we can move our priorities forward in meaningful ways. Officially, we are asking the state to continue our current base level of operating appropriation, which is $740.7 million annually, but then there's a plus. On top of that, we are proposing to request an increase to our base appropriation for 4 items, totaling an incremental increase of $235 million across the biennium. You will again recall from September's discussion that we're suggesting the request be for what we need for increased funding across the next 2 years, rather than what we need as an incremental increase for each of the 2 years in the biennium, year 1 plus an increment for year 2. The state can then decide how they would want to allocate that $235 million across the 2 years. Our first request is for a $120 million increase to invest in 2 things. In our current workforce, because it is our people that actually deliver on the mission, and to address non-personnel and workforce expansion costs that must be covered to maintain the excellence of the university. And here this includes cost categories such as facilities, security, information security, safety, student services, compliance, all those things that have to happen really on a daily basis. The $120 million requested for this item represents 45% of the projected total need across these categories of spending. So the plan includes the necessity of the university to cover the remaining 55% through increased dependence on other revenues, including tuition revenue gains, and through increased, again, spending reductions. Our second request on the list is for a $30 million increase to enhance the student experience, expanding and improving upon what we currently deliver in terms of meeting students' basic needs, providing career preparation opportunities, and ensuring academic support on the way to graduation. The third item is for a $40 million increase to drive economic growth in Minnesota through 4 targeted priority research initiatives. And those four are biomanufacturing, advanced agriculture, hypersonics, and green energy, green iron. And our final request is for a $45 million increase to launch the Health Sciences Strategic Plan. Our health sciences schools, the Rochester campus, and various centers and units have set goals to address workforce shortages, health inequities, insufficient access to health care, and health outcomes for communities across the state. We believe this request for an incremental increase of $235 million across the biennium speaks to what we really need at this point in time, and it will allow us to build a successful budget to maintain the excellence we've worked so hard to build and to ride the momentum we've developed in many areas of strength. Mr. Chair, the resolution before you today, the language of the resolution has been corrected from its original submission in September to reflect the requested appropriation increase just once in the biennium instead of in each of the 2 years. There are no other changes to what was presented in September. So with that, we ask for your approval of this recommendation and are happy to answer any questions you might have at this time.
Thank you. Before we start discussion, is there a motion to approve on behalf of the board the resolution related to the state biennial budget?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Regent Turner.
Question more. Thank you, Chair Hips. What happens if we don't get the 235 and then we haven't set ourselves up for asking for anything in 2027? Can you say they give us 135 million, which we should, that'd be more than we've gotten in a long time. How do we work that?
Mr. Chair, Regent Turner, the request before you today does not preclude our ability to ask for a supplemental increase in the second year of the biennium. We still have, even if they gave us the 235, we would have the ability to do that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Is there any other discussion? Regent Verhalen.
Thank you. There was one statistic in the materials that I think is worth taking a moment to note, which is that for at least the last 4 biennia, there has not been a meaningful increase to the university's O&M base appropriation. And
could you pull the mic closer?
Usually it's me that's reminding people, so thank you. But during that time, we've had unprecedented inflation, an increase in our costs. Just, do you know what that average number is off the top of your head-ish? I'm not going to hold you to.
Mr. Chair, Regent Verhalen, if you're speaking to how much we are behind, so to speak, in inflation-adjusted dollars, I can tell you the last time we did that analysis, we went back to, well, if you go back to the highest appropriation we had, which is right before the Great Recession, we're in the $250 to $300 million on upside down in terms of a loss of inflation-adjusted appropriation. So that's the last time we did it. I mean, you can pick any year to kind of do that analysis, but in any analysis, we are behind, and we have made that up. You might recall some of the charts we've shown with growth in other revenues, including tuition, although behind the other revenues, right. And then through spending reductions.
Yeah, and I think that was the balance piece of this that really kind of hits home and is kind of where the rubber meets the road. Is we have had to have O&M increases over this period of time, but had to make up those differences elsewhere. And we can cut in certain places, but we cannot cut our way to success and prosperity. And so I support this request and also appreciate the presentation this morning to the Special Committee on Academic Health as far as that request goes as part of this as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, you appear ready to vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. Motion passes. Thank you.
No, we just got to get the money.
So for our second item of business, we will act on the President's recommended 2024 6-year capital plan and the 2025 state capital request. I invite President Cunningham, Vice President Alice Roberts Davis, and Interim Vice President Mike Vola to present the plan. President Cunningham, could you please start us off?
Thank you, Chair Hipsch and members of the committee. The purpose of this item is to approve the President's recommended 2024 six-year capital plan and the 2025 state capital request. Do I have the numbers wrong there? I think I have my dates wrong. I will once again reiterate that our facilities are more than just buildings. They are environments where learning, innovation, and community can thrive. Maintaining and renewing these physical assets is essential to the success of our mission. Unfortunately, our current model of relying heavily on state funding for building renewal has proven inadequate and unpredictable. That is then felt by our students and our mission. The lack of state bonding bill last session, along with decreased capital funding, continues to exacerbate the poor condition of our assets. Our request today reflects the urgency of that situation. We need the state's commitment to maintain and renew our physical infrastructure, which is fundamental to the university's success and to the University of Minnesota. Now I would like to turn it over to Vice President Alice Roberts-Davis and Interim Vice President Mike Volna to provide further details.
Thank you, President Cunningham. Your dates were right on.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Hipsch, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity. We have before you action for the 2024 six-year capital plan and the 2025 state capital request. As a reminder, the six-year plan is required by board policy and is the document that sets the direction for major capital projects. You'll find the six-year plan and supporting documents on pages 15 to 38 in your docket materials. There have been no changes to either the plan or the capital request since your review last month. The plan before you is built around advancing the priorities outlined on this slide. These planning goals, which have been used for the past several years and were previously shared with the board, are reflected in both the projects we are requesting from the state and in the projects that the university will be funding with its own resources. This slide outlines the state request priorities for the next three capital requests. Again, there are no changes since we presented the plan for information last month. As a reminder, we are still working on the mHealth Fairview negotiations and LOI discussions are ongoing. There are no placeholders for capital requests for that transaction in this plan, and we will update you as those plans evolve. Finally, I'd like to highlight the benefits that come from regular and predictable capital investment. Our buildings each serve a mission-related purpose. Campus grounds, infrastructure, buildings, and facility services are a recruitment and retention tool for students, faculty, and staff. Comparatively, Minnesota's K-12 institutions offer excellent facilities. Students come to the university and feel as though they're stepping back in time. Their expectation is to learn in an environment that mimics and prepares them for their future workplaces. We have to meet that expectation. If we want to attract the world's best teachers, scholars, and innovators who will serve Minnesota and the world, we must provide modern, reliable, safe, and welcoming facilities. Historically, when the capital plan is before you for action, we have customarily provided a brief update on the university's debt capacity, and for that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Mike Volna, to provide that update.
Thank you, Vice President. Chair Hipsch, members of the committee, we think it's important for you to have an understanding of whether or not the university can actually afford the plan that we are proposing and requesting from the state. So this slide really gives you just a brief snapshot of the debt capacity for the institution. Excuse me. The key takeaway here is that the university does have the debt capacity to afford the state request if the state were willing to provide us with the funds for the 2/3 that they normally provide. It's important to remind you that in addition, though, to debt capacity, it's also important to have a plan to pay for it. And the planning process we use ensures that when a plan or a project comes to you, we have a payment plan in place. So I can assure you that in addition to the debt capacity, we would make sure that every project has a plan to pay it back. In addition to the projects that are included in the state request, some U-funded projects may also require debt. And with each of these, we go through the same process. We revisit this analysis to ensure that we know what the impact is on the debt, and similarly that there's a plan to pay it back. Of course, we want to maintain that favorable credit rating that we have and ensure that the university's financial capacity isn't impaired. So with that, I end this part of it, and we'll stand for questions.
Okay, thank you. Before I invite questions or comments, is there a motion to approve on behalf of the board the resolution related to the 2024 six-year capital plan and the 2025 state capital request?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and second. Now let's turn to discussion. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion passes. Thank you much. Okay. We will continue with our third item, which is discussion of the Peak Initiative. Vice President Ken Horstman and Interim Vice President Bona will provide us with a progress update. Please proceed when you are ready.
Ready? Yep. Great.
Okay.
Chair Hibbs, members of the committee, thank you very much for inviting us back to have you and provide you with an update on the Peak Initiative. Since we last provided an update to the board in June, we have continued to make good progress. Today, we will provide information about how Peak is progressing, both the services being provided to Phase 1 units and the Phase 2 implementation project. We also want to talk about our continued evolution in how we partner both with internal units and external consultants like Huron. After we walk through the presentation, we will be available for questions or discussion. So just as a brief reminder, Peak is an ongoing initiative which is about the transformation of operational services in HR, finance, marketing, communications, and to a lesser extent, IT. The value of Peak is in creating standard service processes that create a consistent experience, drive operational efficiency over time, supports our compliance efforts, and enhances employee opportunities. If I could just take a second and make a suggestion, an analogy, Peak has some similarities to HEAPR. How is that? Well, when you think about HEAPR, HEAPR is an investment that sustains and modernizes physical assets, creates things like energy improvements, incorporates new compliance like ADA, adapts the asset to support differing and new needs that we didn't intend when we originally built the asset. And in that same respect, the things we're trying to do in Peak kind of mirror that. We're trying to modernize our services to be able to adapt to new types of activities that we didn't envision when we created them. We're trying to generate efficiencies. We're trying to create new opportunities for employees. So it is a sustainment and a modernization of a process. While I expect that there will be administrative savings over time, Peak is not simply a cost savings initiative. What I and we expect to see are efficiencies that create savings through our ability to provide higher levels of service within the same administrative cost structure and avoid future cost increases while simultaneously scaling for higher levels of administrative activities as our institution grows. We won't be able to realize all of these qualitative and quantitative benefits until we get down to the end of the project and we actually have matured those processes, but they will come. So this slide is a way to depict how we're going about the project. The Peak service transition really is occurring in phases. Each phase is a repeat of the prior one, but unique because of the units that are in each phase. In the beginning, service delivery may actually be slower as we train, develop, and adapt the service model to each phase in each unit. But as we increase our efficiency and our proficiency with it, in each successive phase, we see improvements, speed, and benefits. Phase 1 was all about initiation, establishing metrics, standing up the new service model, learning how to walk before we run. Phase 2 is about enhancing and refining services. We use feedback and iteration to help us improve. We create a baseline and we monitor productivity. And then in phases 3 and 4, we scale. We analyze performance, we continue to enhance and refine services, and we continue to iterate. Ultimately, this is about transformation through full employment. We accelerate value through solutions that leverage the new service model consistently. Through continuous improvement, our service model matures and our ability to leverage it increases. This isn't to say we don't see early benefits. However, our HR and finance operations centers and Marcom Common Goods services have only been stood up and in process for 8 to 10 months. The new model is allowing us to develop a baseline against which to measure service quality, efficiency, and productivity. This slide gives you a little bit of some metrics and some baseline on what we've been able to accomplish so far in the last 10 months. What we've seen so far is that our service centers have been able to meet the volume of work. They've been able to increase productivity and improve compliance. Some examples. In the HR space, we've seen an ability to implement larger scale regulatory or required changes more easily. For example, job postings with salary information and earn sick and save time are two recent examples of state or federal laws that changed that we had to adapt. HR has also been able to handle high volumes of requests, streamlining the work during busy times, like during the annual merit increase process. In finance, we've seen a steady increase in utilization each month, and the team is keeping pace. Our finance partners have increasingly reported value in always having a consistent place to go for information. The FinOps centers are always the point of contact, and people appreciate being able to go there. In short, we are continuing to refine these processes and make improvements in the partnerships with Phase 1 units. Now I transition it over to Ken.
Thank you, Mike. As you have seen in June, this is our implementation timeline for Phase 2, and it's our roadmap for how we accomplish the current phase. Each quarter on this slide represents a significant amount of effort and work by Phase 2 colleges and units, our project team centrally, and the transition teams in the colleges and units. We are now finishing the process for people and work transition and moving toward implementation. As we complete the work transition, November will be the training month for those employees moving to finance and HR operations roles. The more training we can complete in November, the better positioned we are to implement successfully in early December. And Marcom will be transitioning as they did in Phase 1 on a slightly different time frame, estimated to be in early 2025. During workforce transition, 49 positions were identified as required across finance and HR operations team to support the work moving from Phase 2 units to the central ops centers. Phase 2 employees eligible to express interest are faced with a significant decision. Do they remain in their current unit or transfer to a central ops center? There are also a smaller number of posted positions in HR and finance that are a priority for any Phase 2 employees to apply to. To support the important decisions employees are making this week and in the past week, we held meet and greet events for both finance and HR, and over 50 employees attended. At these events, information on new roles and upcoming training are provided, and employees can meet with leaders and supervisors of the central units. This was a significant time given the number of people involved, but it was well spent time on in-person conversations between employees and the people they may have as supervisors. So far, what we have seen is an improvement over in participation in the expression of interest process from Phase 1. 92% of eligible employees, of those eligible for expression of interest, chose to participate in the process, compared to 59% of those eligible in Phase 1. Of those who expressed interest, 71% have indicated that they are interested in moving to the central ops centers. As I said, we have also posted positions that are available first to Phase 2 employees, and we do know that employees have applied. That review process and selection is underway currently as we're speaking, actually, and we'll be meeting yet this week on that and into early next week. That isn't to say that everything is going smoothly. This is change. This is uncertainty. It raises anxiety. It can raise the temperature level at times, and we are working diligently with two of our largest colleges who have expansive operations, many different schools and processes. And so there are days when it's bumpy, but we do work through that. We are daily in connection, both our project team and our central teams, as well as those working on peak in the colleges and units. And we have been working through those and hearing their concerns. So we will continue to do that as we move forward and work to communicate more clearly and quickly as requested. We continue to learn more as we go through phase 2 on how to do all this work better. In some ways, we're starting over every phase with a different part of the university. And each college or unit within a given phase is actually a separate project with completely different stakeholders and transition teams with different capacity, different experience, and the like. Those working on peak in our central offices do so in addition to their current roles, which are usually full-time, as well as addressing remaining opportunities that arise in our discussions with phase 1 units. The peak project office currently totals 5.5 positions, including our director, Emily O'Neill. Some of those positions are people reassigned from current roles in part or in total from the Office of Human Resources. As we did after phase 1, we will assess what we have learned in phase 2. And given health sciences and healthcare are in phases 3 and 4, the timeline for peak and what peak means for those colleges may be impacted by the decisions on our healthcare enterprise. Interim SVP Tonneson, as always, has frequently and often provided a very thoughtful leadership role in guiding our budget for peak and in her explanation to the stakeholders involved in peak on how that budget process works. It is still a challenge for many to understand, especially for those not close to the budget or the budget planning process. So we thank Julie for that effort, and we'll continue in that regard. Another aspect of this project is change management. That's a really easy term to throw around. We hear it a lot in a lot of different circumstances. It can cover a spectrum of needs on a project like this, but it is a very real, everyday, critical must. It covers many concerns and issues brought forward that you hear about and we hear about, and managing change does require deep listening, clear response on what is and what is not possible, and responsiveness during follow-up. It also requires constant attention. Currently, support for change management directly is assigned to a very capable staff from our OHR talent strategy area as we go forward in this project, and we talk about the Huron partnership. There will be a need to address that capacity too as we go forward. So our Huron partnership, we have continued to partner closely. We trust the team that has been in place for some time now, but we have also been transitioning away from relying on that consulting resource to complete this work. And we are dedicated to managing this program to budget. We know success is critical, and we must continue to develop internal resources to support this work and to take on the work the Huron team has been doing. We are currently reviewing what support is necessary from Huron for 2025, and we'll have a clear defined scenario later this calendar year. Our current intent for 2025 is to further reduce or eliminate direct support from Huron for daily project work. There are advisory roles that may still be necessary from Huron, which makes perhaps a final smaller Huron agreement a possibility. We will have this defined, though, in time for the December board meeting. We anticipate a short period of time after phase 2 to understand what we would adjust or change to make a better experience in phase 3. We are building planning into the phase 3 timeline. As Mike said, this project is built on continuous improvement principles, which means the operation of each project phase should be improved for things we see amiss or that could be done better. And as a result, how we approach each component of peak could include adjustments that make it a slightly different experience than the phase prior. I want to thank you for the opportunity to provide this peak update. Mike and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have, and also with Julie here, she is a leader in peak as well, and she'd be happy to help with those. So thank you.
Well, thank you for your presentation. Thanks for your hard work on this. This is a very important thing we're doing. So is there any discussion or questions? Regent Davenport.
Sure, since it's quiet. Thank you, Chair. I was intrigued by that comparison of peak and heaper. And I think the takeaway on that is that it's not just simply cost savings. And so as we look at financial sustainability and efficiency and being able to free up dollars to reinvest, I just thought that was a good point, creatively said. Thank you.
Very nice, yes. Any other discussion? Regent Turner.
Thank you, Regent Hipsch. I noticed we have some guests in the audience here. I would assume they might, but I don't want to make an ass out of you or me here, but that they might be here in regards to peak. I've always had the concern that peak initiative would eliminate jobs or potentially eliminate non-collective or collective bargaining jobs, or is everyone being communicated the way that they should be without going down there and asking them what their issues are? These are all concerns that I've reiterated to you, Vice President Horstman, many times over breakfast and the whole 9 yards. So, I mean, it's like, seriously, what could be there? Are we getting all their concerns met? And most importantly, hopefully collective bargaining jobs are not being whittled away.
Chair Hipsch, Regent Turner, and thank you for continually keeping that at front of mind. We have not had any peak-related workforce reduction at this point. In fact, in phase 2, we had developed a profile of what we wanted phase 2 jobs in the Central Ops Center to look like. When we revisited that compared to who would be eligible for the work the way it is currently being done, we saw a mismatch, and we went back, and a lot of this primarily was in the finance area, so I congratulate and thank Mike and his leadership team for being agile, and they went back and redesigned their phase 2 operation to account for more labor-related positions, specifically for that reason. So I think that shows a commitment to being flexible. And we realize this. We talk to peers who, like I said, this isn't cutting edge. This has been done for a long time. And when we talk to peers who have done this successfully, rarely is there a big drop in workforce. Our jobs different, our training and skills different as time progresses, yes. But the number of resources needed for the work is not something that you see a big drop in. Where savings come are from how you do the work, the capacity you have to do additional work and that kind of thing. And the fact that things are being done accurately, correctly, they're monitored more quickly, we're compliant. And so I hope that helps.
One follow-up, communication,
Yes.
communication. And obviously, we've got, and I realize how hard it is to get to every single person and their concerns. But like I said,
We
They're here for a
realize
reason.
we're not hitting the mark every single time. There's many stakeholders, and we do assess this daily. And the only way people will probably fully appreciate that is when we do communicate the way we need to every single person. But that is a challenging task. And I think as we go through this project over and over, it is the first time every time we come to a new college. And so that will be a first time experience, and that cycle will start over. That is why after this phase, we want to consider what could we do differently to make this a more, I don't know if it'll ever be simple, but a little easier process for those involved.
Thank you. You know, we are a very large organization. And, you know, like every other large organization on earth, we have to reanalyze what we're doing once in a while and move our resources to our mission and to make it better. Otherwise, we're going to become a dinosaur. You know what happened to those guys. So, Student Representative Vasilopoulos.
Thank you, Chair Hipsch, and thank you so much for your presentation and all your hard work on this. I know that the peak implementation is more directly maybe affecting our processes and systems on the back end of things. But a question that we've been getting from some of our peers is how will students maybe see a change in resources or change in systems, how they engage in some of these processes? A lot of times I think students hear some of these large-scale university system-wide implementations and don't know exactly how it might affect them, if the answer is at all. And so just anything you can provide to that we can then take back to our peers.
Sure. I think most of the impact that students will see would be in those areas where services are directly targeted or impacting students. So student employment, student payments, those kinds of things. Right now, student finance, so how we finance or how we distribute financial aid or whatever, is not part of the scope of this. So it is primarily more of a pure accounts payable purchasing type thing, but to the extent that students either as student employees are involved in that or are a recipient of that, you might see a little bit of that. If we do it right, it'll be invisible.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Regent Farnsworth.
Thank you, Chair Hipsch. And I just, the only thing I wanted to add to this conversation is I did notice when reviewing the board's public forum portal, there are extensive comments this month about peak, particularly from the system, around the whole system, very representative actually of the system, very detailed, specific concerns that I just want to flag and make sure our administrative team is looking at, and all board members have looked at those as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Farnsworth. Any other discussion? President Cunningham.
Chair Hipsch, first of all, I want to thank the team for moving forward with this process. I want to thank the community who has used their voices and for the information that they've put on the portal and how we've been hearing about this difficult, complicated, big, messy process to modernize our business operations. Most major universities have gone through this process. It's very messy at many places. It involves real people and it affects the real people's lives of their work. I believe the analogy to Heeper was quite beautiful. I'll echo that. So, you know, we have to modernize our business operations in the same way that we have to modernize our buildings. And that's a difficult, messy process. I appreciate how much what I've heard from the team about trying to learn from what went well and obviously what did not go well at the earlier phase, trying to make those changes in the next phases. It will probably remain to be bumpy, and I'll ask sort of both the teams and the communities, you know, patience and some understanding as we try to move a difficult process that ideally will make our business operations better while still trying to maintain the things that is making them work well. We won't get it perfect, but I think we'll hopefully move towards an organization that has a business structure that is more modern, that sets us up well for the next investments that we need to make to be more ready to be able to take them in and make them. So those are my comments, with thanks to the team and thanks to the community.
Thank you. Yep. Okay, we're going to move to our next item. So, which is our next item is the revised consent report. Interim Senior Vice President Tana Sun, will you summarize the item in today's request?
Yes, thank you, Chair Hips, members of the committee. October's consent agenda includes 4 key items for your consideration. First, we have 1 employment agreement for approval, and that is for Greg Goldman as Executive Vice President for Finance and Operations, serving the University of Minnesota system. Next, we have 2 purchases of goods and services over $5 million. The first is a $9.5 million extension with Minnesota Life Insurance Company for basic and supplemental accidental death and dismemberment and life insurance coverage for University of Minnesota employees across all campuses. This is a 2-year extension from January of 2026 through December of 2027. It was negotiated at reduced rates, saving the university just over $1 million. The other is a $10 million renewal with Oracle America Incorporated for licensing and maintenance of the university's PeopleSoft application suite and Oracle Database Enterprise. This covers all campuses again for 3 years, from January 2025, we'll slip to 19s there, 2025 through December 2027. These systems are critical to our core business operations. So this includes our student system, our finance system, and our HR system. So absolutely essential for going forward, and we need that stable, secure, and compliant environment for those systems to operate in. Last, we seek approval for the submission of the university's biennial report on the Permanent University Fund, or PUF, to the Minnesota Legislature, and that's required by state statute. This report details the disbursement of funds from the endowed scholarship account to support student scholarships across all of our campuses, and it reports on the use of the mineral research account to fund research at NRRI. And that, Mr. Chair, concludes my remarks on the consent items.
Thank you. Now, before I invite a motion to approve the revised consent report, you are welcome to ask questions, make comments, or ask for an item to be separated out from the report to be voted on separately. Are there any questions, comments, or requests to separate an item out? Regent Colley.
Thank you. I would like to pull out the employment agreement for a discussion.
Sure. Okay, we'll pull out the employment agreement. Okay, so with pulling out the employment agreement, is there any other regions that want to pull anything else out of the consent agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion on behalf of the board to approve the revised consent agenda, less the employment agreement?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, now before we, now we'll move into the employment agreement. Is there a motion to approve on behalf of the board the employment agreement?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Regent Colley.
Thank you, Chair. So first of all, I want to start by saying that I'm very excited that we got someone with a particular expertise, that this person whose name I cannot remember off the top of my head, so I apologize. Sorry again?
Greg Goldman.
Okay, Greg Goldman, who I understand we're going to have a chance to meet in the next few days, brings to our work. And so when the university set out to hire this position, they looked for someone with this very, very particular expertise in both university administration and finances and healthcare administration and finances. I have to imagine that there are very few people in the country or even in the world who meet that particular niche expertise. And so I'm honestly thrilled that we were able to find someone to do this particular work that we have a need for at this moment. The reason that I wanted to separate this out is that the only thing about this that gives me pause is the salary increase from the person who was doing this job before to this. Now, I don't think that we are unique in this kind of salary inflation. And you all know, I am a labor person in my soul. And so I deeply believe in paying people well and in good benefits and everything. But we have, at the highest level of the university, huge amounts of salary inflation. And this is a global problem. This is not, problem is maybe not the right word, but it is a global challenge. It is not something that is unique to the University of Minnesota. And I heard the comment that people who are in this particular role are expecting to get paid this kind of money. But I do want to say that when we're always hiring people at the 60th to 70th percentile of median income ranges, and this is particularly noticeable in the senior level administrators, what we're doing is we're doubling our salary requirements every 6 years because it's going up by 0.2%, 0.2%. So every time we hire these positions, we're going to have this kind of huge salary jump. And then I don't want to say anything about this particular person. Like I said, there are probably very few people who have this particular type of expertise. And so we have this real challenge because we really need this one particular person who has this kind of expertise. But we're a public institution, and we just talked about the fact that we're going to the legislature and once again asking them to give us more money. And so part of our job is telling them why it's important for us to be able to hire the people that we need to hire. And so, but I'm wrestling heavily with the fact that we're a public institution, and these kinds of salaries give me a lot of heartburn because not only are they out of step with what our stakeholders want to see, they're also out of step with what we're paying our faculty and our hourly staff and sort of most of the rest of the university, our students, our grad students. And so figuring out how we level that playing field feels really important to me. And so have been wrestling with this decision a lot over the last couple of days and trying to figure out what I want to say about it. And I think that what I want to say is that we have to take these kinds of decisions really seriously. And I think as an institution that we and I've said this before, we're not the only part of the market, but we are the market. And so we also set these standards. We are not just something that the economy is acting on, we are also creating it. And so as we think about salaries like this, I think we need to take that question really seriously and think about how we can, as an institution, work to reel those in a bit and reel in the inflation that we're experiencing and that we're participating in. So I talked for a long time. Thank you for letting me.
Chair Hips.
Thank you. Go ahead, President Carney.
I appreciate those comments, and I think we're all sensitive to market, market price, essentially, with all of our employees. I think it's one of the reasons that we see in the budget that was put forth this morning, a workforce reinvestment request to the state that would hopefully increase our faculty and staff and all of our employees' salaries up to what we believe should be the market range and in the range that would be competitive with our peers, because we understand that that's not, and that's one of the things that we're working on, and we believe in that so strongly that they should be paid at the market rate of our peers, that we're willing to go to the state and put in a request for that this year. So I want you to hear that's where my principles are on this. I want to make a little tweak to one thing in terms of this is different than the prior jobs. We can't compare the salary of the person who did this job before and this job here because it has an entirely different dimension to it. Whereas the university has never had a requirement in this job or needed expertise in this job that had anything to do with healthcare, clinical flows, revenue flows, hospital mergers or acquisitions. That has not been part of the position before, and it comes with a different salary range. And so I think we have to. It's not that inflation from the cost before. It's the salary of. It's the expertise that we have never asked for before here that we now need to have, and that salary has a different market value to it. In the materials, it's noted where this falls in the range of the market share. And what I would say is, we unfortunately, I hear you that we contribute to the market, but we also have to be competitive within the marketplace for what particular jobs cost. And this job in the market broadly, costs, this is between the 50 and under the 75th percentile for market rate for this position. It is not above that across the peers that have the work doing this kind of job. And so we're within range for that. And that puts us within range for what we're hoping for if we do workforce reinvestment right to get the rest of our folks too as well. And then the last part being said is, we're in as we sit in every one of these meetings, we're in a particular time for our budget, for an inflection point for how we manage our facilities and our operations in declining state budget times. And with that, the university and the taxpayers need a person in this position who has been seasoned and done this job at other universities, large, complex universities like ours, and that can find fiscally steward our nearly $5 billion budget for us collectively together in a responsible way. And so in terms of my view of the use of taxpayer funds to make sure that we are adequately spending the rest of our budgets right and in a responsible manner, paying within this market share of the under 75th percentile is how we thought about the position. And I do appreciate the comments and the deep thinking about it.
Regent Turner.
Thank you, Chair Hipsch. In the Academic Health Committee, we have verbalized a marvelous, marvelous dream for Minnesota, and that is to bring academic health to Minnesota in a unique way that no other state in the union will have. But to do that, and this is why to hire somebody of this caliber to be able to help to bring around that dream, I would say you use the word taxpayer. I'm going to use the word my patients. And we're all patients. And this is going to be, if we can pull this off and become what our dream is that I hear in that committee, it is my patients, which could be any one of you, anyone in this state, any taxpayer, will only benefit. And if this is the expertise that we need to pull this off, then it is well worth it. And I would put this person's salary up against a CEO of an insurance company any day and say, who is going to be of more value? This person that we're going to hire or the CEO of some insurance company? I'll take the person that we're going to hire any day because that person will potentially benefit the taxpayers, but more importantly, my patients.
Thank you, Regent Turner. Regent Mayron.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to support the motion to approve this salary for the new EVP. And I do so being very aware of the comments and that Regent Gully has brought up and her heartfelt commitment to fair wages for everyone from the top of the system to every worker within faculty, staff, union member, non-union member throughout the university community. First of all, our policy dictates that our salary be competitive, that it take into account the marketplace for the position that is being filled, and this hire does that and is consistent with our policy, which I adhere to. Second, I think our commitment has to be about raising compensation for all. And I don't think the answer is reducing the compensation to address what is perhaps inadequate or not market compensation for others. It's about raising everybody up. And that's why we have a special committee that is devoted to this topic. Regent Gully, you are chairing that committee, and I know that you will give it your very best to address compensation for everyone. And lastly, it's part of our work priority for the board. This commitment to addressing the inequities in compensation, to raise compensation for faculty, staff, and all of our employees. So for those reasons, our policy dictates this compensation, and adhering to our commitment as a board through our subcommittee or a special committee and through our work priority to address the workplace issues, including compensation, I will vote in favor of this proposal with respect to compensation for our new EVP of Finance and Operations.
Thank you, Chair Maron. Regent Talurabe.
Thank you, Chair. I want to also thank Regent Gawley for pulling the item out, mainly because I think it's important for all of our audiences to hear the conversation and the thought behind kind of why these types of hiring decisions need to be made. I too feel strongly, as Regent Gawley talks about, in terms of just ensuring that we are investing in our whole workforce. And so it was good to see that line item in our requests and to make sure that we are doing all that we can to make sure we are taking care of the people here at the university, because those people who are here are what makes this institution excellent. And so a deep commitment to that is really important. And then as I think about this position, one, I don't understand all of it. And congratulations to you, because it's your first big hire. And so as you come here, President Cunningham, to lead this institution and lead us into the future, I hope that we get to see and hear about how these types of hirings help us to kind of achieve that, because we're in this situation now where there's lots of conversations happening about the future of academic health and what this institution needs to do. And while I don't understand all of it, I trust that this position is essential for that. And I would hope that just as a board, we pay attention to the governance role of seeing how that progresses, so that when we make these hiring decisions that weigh multiple things for us, that it is helping us to do that, because it's something that, as I understand, we're moving in a direction that this university hasn't been in yet, and that's why we need this expertise. But in a governing role, I would like to see kind of just how we will be managing kind of the progress of that, so that we can feel good that when we make these hiring decisions, and if it's going to cost a certain thing, that's one discussion, but does it actually get us closer to that ambition of being, a different type of institution? That's something that to me feels like we need to kind of work into what our board responsibility is in terms of paying attention to that. So I just want to say I welcome Mr. Goldman. Am delighted that we have his expertise. I really want also our audiences to, in particular, our workforce, to understand the value that they bring here and our deep commitment to really working on those workforce investment issues, but also to know that we have a governance responsibility and that this is part of that trajectory. And I'd like to continue to make sure that we pay attention to how that's progressing.
Thank you. Regent Farnsworth.
Thank you, Chair Hipsch, and really I'm struck by Regent Talirabe's comments. I also want to make sure that we continue to have conversations about what is the governance role when it comes to these. I'm really pleased that we're having this workforce special committee. I think Regent Gully, you're the exact right leader for that, and thank the rest of our colleagues that are on that. I'm on the other one, but thank you all for the work that you're about to do on that. I think that's critical that we have that work underway, and I think this particular situation or related is not going to be the only thing that special committee talks about, but the work in that special committee I think is going to help us navigate these types of situations in the future. Besides that, I'll just say, this general topic is something that has caused me some heartburn and thoughts about over the years since being on the board, but also want to say, as being in deep listening to everyone's comments so far, I hear what you're saying, President Cunningham, and want to note appreciation for that as well, as part of my thought process here. So thank you.
Regent Ruth Johnson, and then Kenyanya.
Well, thank you. I appreciate all these comments. So I'm a fifth generation Minnesotan. I said that before, but one of the things I really
Your microphone.
love about,
Sorry.
I didn't want any other whispering here. Okay.
Microphone guy too now.
Minnesota is really quite an egalitarian state. There's a culture here of that, which I really like. And we don't like big gaps in, income and in inequality. And I think that's a really important part of who we are as Minnesotans. I love that. And that's part of the reason I'm still here. But the other thing is, as part of our interest in having a healthy and good culture, is that we have the best healthcare. We're the number one kind of healthcare state, and that and so if we can do this and bringing the right people in to help make this all work and go forward with our really exciting plans about what we're doing with healthcare throughout the state and the healthcare workforce, that will be another great good for this state that I think is consistent with our values. And so that for that reason, I guess I will support this, as somebody will help us get there. Right.
Thank you. Regent Kenyanya.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't reiterate many good points that have been made. Regent Gully, thanks for separating this. And perhaps we should even just do that as practice, because it's really important when we're discussing such important things. I will say, part of this conversation that in the past I've never fully agreed with is I think with some positions, the pool of qualified good candidates is bigger than it's sometimes made out to be. And I think a lot of the jobs that come before us are tough, and many I certainly couldn't do. This is one of the few where I actually do think that pool is actually quite small. That intersection of the two things that Regent Gully and others talked about. So I certainly understand. And Regent Turner, you made some good points about just where we're at right now. Not just at any other point, but right now. So at this point, I'm definitely more understanding of where we're at, the things we're trying to do, and the special skill set that's going to be needed. I don't think it's always the case that there's such few qualified people, but I think this might be one of them. But thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion?
I just have a quick comment.
Go ahead, Regent Mayeron.
Yep. And that is, I think, I hope it's not lost on anyone, and I hope it's not lost on our partners at the legislature. But with the hire of President Cunningham, and with this hire as well of EB, EVP Goldman. I think we're making a really strong statement to the state of Minnesota of how committed we are to solving the healthcare issues that the state is confronting. And by bringing in people who have specialized expertise in this area to help us address it so that we can help the state address it, I just think is a very important message that we all want to send to our partners at the legislature and others who may look at the salary in a vacuum and say, geez, that is so high. How can you possibly pay that much? We're in part paying for that much is we're paying for that specialized expertise where there is a dire need for the state in terms of healthcare. And so I think this is a very strong statement to all of those partners.
Thank you, Chair Mayron. And if you weren't at this morning's meeting, one of the initiatives was health for all Minnesotans, all with the ALL. So I think that's really a big goal and it's a really big issue. And so I fully support this motion. So it appears that we're ready to vote. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
No, thank you.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you all. Great discussion. This is what we need to have on every issue, so. Okay. Speaking of information items, Interim Senior Vice President Tonneson, anything to highlight?
Thank you, Chair Hips. Yes, just very quickly, we have 4 items today. First, not really an item, there are no transactions to report on Central Reserve's general contingency allocation, so that was just to let you know that. Second, we have the annual asset management report that provides performance results for assets managed by our Office of Investments and Banking for FY24, and that's required by board policy. Third, we have the Strategic Facilities and Real Estate Report that provides a comprehensive summary of the university's physical assets, including facility condition assessments, space utilization, real estate transactions, and capital project management updates for fiscal year 24. And finally, as a transitional report, we have the use of long-term capital financing program proceeds report that updates the board on the use of $4 million for the dining hall improvements project at the Rochester campus from that fund. This is considered a transitional report because it now at $4 million would fit under the threshold for what has to come to the board separately. Going forward, a project like this will be on the annual September report, which is the finance and debt management report that you'll see. So you'll still see it. It'll just be on that report rather than pulled out separately. So this was just a transitional information item for that purpose. And that concludes my remarks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments Okay, before we adjourn, I want to express the committee's deep appreciation to Interim Senior Vice President Tonneson for jumping in and serving as a senior leader. Thank you for all you have done to keep the work of the Finance Committee moving forward. President Cunningham, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Hips. And I just, too, would really like to recognize Julie Tonneson for her tremendous service during this difficult time and all these administrative transitions, onboarding me, doing this job, by the way, also still doing her other job. For those of you that don't know, that she's actually doing 4 jobs right now. I've gotten a chance to work with Julie on a number of issues in the past couple of months, and regardless of the topic, her depth of knowledge, her steady leadership, her unwavering commitment to excellence and rational thought, I'm so fortunate to have gotten this time to work with you like this, and I know I'm fortunate we'll get to continue to work together. And also, I'm just so excited for you to go back to having only, the 3 other jobs that you have, and I know you're going to appreciate that time as well, Julie. So thank you so much.
Well, you're very welcome, and I've been honored to do it. So thank you.
People are walking up to rock stars and saying, "You're quite a Julie Tonneson." So.
No. We've got a great team. It's a team effort.
Okay, thank you, everyone, and we're adjourned.
Thank you.